Hello, hello, hello. Today is Friday, July 21st, 2023, episode number 374. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button so you know when we go live. You're in the litter box with Jules and Catturd. Hey there, Cat. How are ya?
Hey, hey, hey.
How goes it today?
Did we do it? Is it Friday?
It is Friday. We made it. It was a stormy
Man,
one, but not as stormy as the Bidens. Oh my
boy, they
goodness.
got them just dead to rights.
It's just so much fun to watch.
They got them busted. They got them
Wow.
busted dead to rights. They really do.
They really do, and it's about time. The thing about it is, I think what's frustrating for a lot of people is that we've known about all of this for so long. And so now that it's reached the surface, it's kind of like, okay, well, why do we still have the same people in charge? Why do we still have Garland? Why do we still have Mariokas? Why do we still have all of these people up there in those positions? You're asking them to investigate themselves now. What do you do about something like that? And that's the problem that everybody's having. You really sit there and go, okay, so let the impeachments begin. Unleash it already. We've got to. We've got to get these people out of office. They're just about as slimy as they can possibly be. But real quick, I promised everybody that I was going to give a shout out for the donations that we received on this show. And so I've got to do it. You all are so gracious and so kind to support this show. I've got R. Bevmo, Jocelyn. I've got Balden Nelson. I've got Little Cowie. I've got Amy Loves Books, Burrito Boy, Cream Minnie Cooper, Roger Clemency, Skippy 83, Elizabeth Gordonier. Thank you all for donating to the show. We appreciate it more than you know.
Thank
And
you.
we have a huge guest that's joining us today. A
Oh yeah.
really big guest that is joining us today. Kari Lake will be here, and we are so excited. I mean, this is going to be a great show. The queen of mama bears, as I like to refer to her. She will be roaring
I
along
like
with us
to
today.
refer to her as the real governor of Arizona.
Yeah, but that's what everybody has been saying. It's the funniest thing. My DMs have been completely swamped. Everybody's saying, say hello to my governor for me. Because a lot of California transplants moved to Arizona
I know.
and they're friends of mine and they're like, she should have been. And everybody knows what happened. The same thing that happened to President
You're the only
Trump.
one left in California. You're the only conservative. You're like a little island in downtown.
I
It's like
am. Oh my
you're so
gosh.
by yourself right now.
It's so sad. It really is.
You and
But
handsome votes Republican.
oh, he's so cute. Yes, and he wears his red, white, and blue too. Let me tell you, he is quite the guy.
Did you
But
ever give him a MAGA hat?
I haven't found a MAGA hat for him.
That's anybody that makes stuff. Handsome needs a little tiny magnet to make America great again. Oh, please do it.
Oh, he's a make my day great again boy anyway. He's absolutely the highlight of my
She'll,
day.
Jules will have matching shoes and matching scarf and a matching suit for it already. All you got to do is make the hat.
Oh my gosh, it is so true. I mean, look, Mama Pearl, she gave me this cute little bomber jacket for him, so he's
Oh
already in
God.
his
Do you,
American
do you
gear.
do you like lay out clothes and then like put this with this and stuff like a person does on your bed when you're doing it for your dog
Oh,
every
I
day?
have so much fun. He's like my little toy, of course. I mean, these are the kind of things that keep me going in this fight, you know? Enough of this other stuff. It's so depressing and it's so corrupt. So I've got this little guy who absolutely just makes my day. See, I called him the Red Baron, and so she got him Red Baron attire with shoes.
Somebody's got to do it. Make America great again hat. And it's got to be really tiny because he's 4 pounds.
Exactly. He's a little guy. So anyway, yes, there's been nothing but corruption going on, and it's all boiling to the surface. And
Got him busted.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, the evidence is there. The Republicans, that it's amazing. They're like, okay, well, maybe we should impeach somebody then to do the elections. And should we do this? And here's the blowback for this. Just got Nancy Pelosi don't do that. It's
right.
just you got the evidence. You've got all the evidence you need. You got a million times more than the Democrats ever had on the phony Trump impeachment.
It is so true.
Just pull the trigger, for God's sakes. They're never going to do it with Kevin McCarthy in there. I'm telling you, that's where everything goes to die right there, Kevin McCarthy.
It really is. And we have been warning since the very beginning that that's how it was going to go. We knew it, and we knew that he was definitely going to be embedded in there for that reason, to slow everything down. But people are talking about, where do we go from here? I mean, that's the big question. You have got the Joe Biden bribe allegations needs a special counsel now. And they're talking about it. This is one of the biggest
No,
stories of our
the
lifetime.
problem is, who appoints the special counsel?
This is what I was
The
saying.
guy who they're investigating. Who's our who's going to appoint the special counsel?
Yep.
Merrick Garland. What has he did? He's the one that's hiding all this stuff.
That's right.
He would have to appoint a special counsel against himself.
That's right. This is
He
the
ain't gonna do it.
problem.
Plus, they love special counsels because they can do it either two ways. They can get one like they're going for Trump right now on all bullshit charges, and they can, go after him aggressive. We're gonna pull up a 1837 rule that was supposed to be for people walking on the sidewalk, and we're going to charge them a felony with it. And then you got the other ones, Biden's special counsel, by the way, who nobody even knows who it is, and they're not doing anything or not going to do anything. So that's a way for the DOJ could come out and say, yeah, we're going to let somebody look into it. We're going to do John Smith over here, and he's going to be the special counsel. And by the way, of course, it's going to take 5 years for the special counsel to do anything. And they can always say, we appointed a special counsel. We can't talk about that. We're not allowed to talk about that. So I hope they don't, because that's just the end of it then.
Yeah. Everything. This whole entire, what has happened to our country as a result of this is really, we are headed on such a wrong track. They are making the rules up as they go along. That's where we are, to benefit themselves. This is a full-blown banana republic. That is what's happened. And rule of law, that just has gone completely out of the window. They are talking about stealing elections. I mean, if you think that these people aren't going to throw everything that they've got at 2024 to make sure that President Trump doesn't get in there, you're wrong. They know what's going to happen to them. So they are going to fight harder than they've ever fought before. What are we willing to do, Republicans, to fight back even harder? We must. Or you can just kiss this whole thing goodbye. The fact that President Trump is going through what he's going through right now, and you've got Biden and the scandal that has been uncovered this week, President Trump looks like a choir boy. You realize that. He looks like a choir boy in comparison to Joe Biden.
I call him a garbage family. Now everybody knows exactly why I call him that.
You got it. This is really like nothing we have ever.
They have all these
before.
businesses. They got fake businesses and LLCs and everything under all these names. And what do? All these businesses the Bidens have rake in millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. They don't make a product. They don't have an office. They don't have any employees. They don't build nothing. They don't do anything. What do you think it's for? How do the millions get there when you don't build nothing, do nothing, have an actual office, have any employees? What do you think it is? It's bribery and extortion.
Oh, it is. It is really something else. I mean, this whole Burisma holding, this whole scandal, it has played out in its entirety. And the thing about it is, everybody knew about it. This is a known secret. Everybody was involved in it. You had a complicit media that was covering everything up.
Biden's literally on camera bragging about extorting a country for $1 billion and getting somebody fired that was investigating his son. It's on film, Republicans. It's on video. Not Alexander Vindman, the joke, saying, this friend said it and he said it, and I heard it from a friend who heard it from another friend, and just on a perfectly good phone call. I mean, they got him. They got them busted. There's no excuse for you not to impeach them. Today, there's no excuse for it anymore.
None. A lot of people, though, I know, are secretly hoping that they don't impeach Biden and that it does end up being a showdown between President Trump and Biden. Because, like I said, the sympathy is going to President Trump, what he has had to go through, and his family and his administration is it's like unlike anything we've ever seen before. And when you look at the allegations that are being launched against Joe Biden, you almost secretly want him in there because you can start exposing him and President Trump will take him apart. He will take him apart. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, you know what? Easy on that whole impeachment, because this would really play beautifully for President Trump. They don't want a lot of people to introduce anybody else, like a Michelle Obama or a Gavin Newsom, which is what we have over here. I know they're really pulling for him. My
I
gosh.
just can't look. I can't look at him. I say it all the time, but he's just the perfect Satan in me. Every time I look at him, I think of just a movie, where they have a Satan character that lives among us, and it just looks. That's what I picture he'd look like. That slick, oily hair back, big giant smile, fake politician, everything.
Oh, he is the worst.
Yes, slimy.
The worst. And
you look up slimy politician in the dictionary, and there's Gavin Newsom and Mitt Romney. Twins.
I know. I mean, that's really what we have here. This is unbelievable stuff. Okay, so as a result of the big show with Kari Lake, we have got some amazing sponsors who have gotten on board to support the show, to help us out with everything. And so our first sponsor today is Field of Greens. You can use the promo code LB for 15% off a one-time purchase and 10% off a subscription. So visit fieldofgreens.com. Are you taking yours every day? I am. It's making a huge difference for me. I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm feeling better and better. I'm taking it twice a day. Are you taking it once or twice?
Well, just once.
Okay, I'm doubling down. Like everything I do. Like everything I do in my life.
One's good, two's better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of an extremist in that way. So honestly, I do not have the time when I produce 2 shows and I do this 6 days a week. I cannot sit there and eat my vegetables. I know that they recommend that you sit down and you have all of this food, but I don't have time for that. In fact, I'm guilty of just going without anything to drink or eat in a daytime. But I've been taking my Field of Greens, and it's taken the pressure off because I'm getting everything that I need in that. And plus I eat a little bit, in the afternoon. It helps me remember. But with a busy lifestyle like that, and I know you're busy, this is truly the way to go. I feel better. I can't munch down 6 cups of produce. There's just no way. No way. I don't care what they say. So, and the good news is the benefits are you will have a lower chance of getting cancer. I mean, heart disease, diabetes, all of those evils, things that really wreck somebody's health. It's just a great thing to incorporate in your diet. So if you haven't tried it now, head over there, go to fieldofgreens.com and mention the promo code LB. It stands for Litter Box, and you will get 15% off of a one-time purchase and 10% off of a subscription. I hope you all will check that out. So anyway, it is going to be quite a day. I know I've got some questions ready. I know everybody is excited about Kari Lake joining us. I'm telling you the exact same story that President Trump had. She's the female version. The exact same attacks. They went after her like nobody's business, and she prevailed. Absolutely prevailed. Now people are saying, hey, is she going to be VP? Is she going to be?
I would be extremely happy with that choice.
Oh boy, I would be thrilled. Absolutely thrilled.
That's who I want. I'm just going to put it out there.
Well, you should, because she's amazing, and her journey is incredible. I mean, people have floated every single kind of position. They want her in the Senate. They want her even as press secretary. They want her somewhere in this administration. They don't care where she goes. We just need Kari Lake. And she has come out with a new book, just so everybody knows. It's going to be a great book if you haven't checked it out yet, Unafraid. And it truly is an incredible story about how she started on her journey and what has happened the last couple of years, being endorsed by President Trump, and their relationship has just gotten so strong. And you see that she truly is unafraid. She does not care.
She's not one day going to stab him in the back either. That's what I like about her. I trust her.
I trust her too. I absolutely do. Because
she ain't going to pull no Mike Pence.
No, definitely no.
I heard the fly's polling better than Mike Pence right now. I think the fly is at 2% and he's at 1%.
Well, so, I don't know. I think the fly's right. We've always said the fly was right. It landed right on him and never.
Gosh,
you couldn't shake it.
it's hard to believe something like that can happen, and it's not anybody's fault. But then that's what they remember you for. You could cure cancer, and you'd be like, oh, that's the dude that has a fly on his head.
Well, and the same thing happened to Obama. You've got pictures of
Yeah.
Obama with the fly. So that fly is running rampant
Yeah.
over there. It knows sleaze when it sees it and de-sleaze. So there you have it.
Well,
The fly's right. The fly's right.
what do they land on?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I just think that this is great because we've been attacked, both of us, in our own element and in our own
Oh, it
rights.
never ends.
It never stops. And so can you imagine what a day like in Kari Lake's shoes? What that must be like? I mean, but she's ready for them. She already knows where they're going to go. And she just hits them back twice as hard. That's why everybody's like, my goodness, there you go. You don't even look any further. She's the one. And then imagine this. If she were to be the vice president for President Trump, let's just assume, then we could have another 8 years of Kari Lake. I mean,
I know she's so well spoken and just I mean she says what she means and means what she says, and that's what I like.
oh boy.
I like unfiltered, just say what you mean and mean what you say. People, it's hard to believe that we've come to a point in our world where that's one out of every 1,000 to 10,000 people will actually go around and just, you don't have to be rude to people. You don't have to rude people out, but just be unafraid of what they think of you, what they're going to say about you, what the New York Times is going to write about you, and just say it.
Mm-hmm. She is.
They're just opinions.
She's that person. She is that person. And we have a real opportunity here. That would be a powerhouse administration that would go on and it would just completely conquer all of this nonsense that we've been living through. You want to talk about cleaning out all of these corrupt entities, the DOJ, the FBI, all of it. With a powerhouse
But
team of those two, my goodness.
you know how Biden, laughably and not really, but he put Kamala Harris on the border, in charge of the border. The
Oh,
borders are
gosh,
some
yes.
place you don't even know how to get there.
Hmm.
Could you imagine Trump putting Kari Lake in charge of the border?
It would
You
be
think there'd be a different border than we
well.
got now?
Let me tell
I
you
mean,
what.
jeez.
Well, that's why they went after Kari Lake so hard. It's because I live over here in California. She was going to save us all from that trafficking that's coming in on that border in Arizona. And they know that she would have completely stopped all of that nonsense. She was going to be our last call, right? I mean, that was it. She was
That's
going to
why they
stop
had to.
it.
That's why
That's
they had
why
to
they
cheat.
stole it. That's why they gave it to Katie Hobbs. The cartel and everything else that they were doing was at stake. They weren't going to give up that kind of power. No way. Well, we've learned a lot. I mean, we really and truly have. And I'm just every single day it unfolds. We try to give you the rundown of all of the news as best as we possibly can. But every single
It
minute,
happened so fast.
it's just one thing after another. But
We
yeah.
we'll name the show 5 or 6 hours before the show, and I don't know if a day goes by. Sometimes not, but most days I'm like, man, I wish I could have waited to the last 10 minutes because this huge breaking news just happened 15 minutes before the show.
I know it, and there's no way that we can change it. That's the problem. I have to get everything set up and all the links, we have to create them, and we try to be a little vague sometimes because we're like, okay, anything could happen here, but there's no way. I mean, one news story comes out, but that's also by design. Well, Trump has announced that he will institute the death penalty for child traffickers after screening Sound of Freedom. You want to talk about border? He is looking at that very seriously. I heard he did not move an inch watching that movie, and he is most concerned. That hit a lot of people. I haven't seen it, but everyone is talking about that movie. Even Tinseltown is hiding from talking about that movie.
I think Jack Poso listed a bunch of movies that it beat this year already. Big movies that were supposed to be blockbusters. Man, you can read that list. I mean, they just about beat everybody.
Oh, of course. I mean, this is a huge problem.
And these
And
people don't have the budgets.
mm-mm,
They have to. I mean, when you do an independent film like this, it's you have to have somebody that's got some bucks behind it. But but you don't have any. You have everybody working against you in Hollywood instead of even being neutral. It's the opposite.
that's right. Absolutely right. I mean, this is really something because they're on strike. They're so worried about AI coming for their jobs, they don't even know what to do. Restaurants are full again in Hollywood all of
Yeah,
a sudden. Everybody are
we can have a
marching.
younger version of you acting, and then we don't have to listen to that same AI talking. Have red carpet meltdowns at the Oscars.
You got it. There's also some more news. Hold on to your seats because the trial date for President Trump, the classified documents case, has been set for May 20th, 2024. And you had the Florida District Judge Eileen Cannon who made the announcement. And boy, it is a big sizzler because here's the deal. This trial will kick off after the Republican nominee is chosen. All right. So you got to picture this. You got jury selection begins on May 14th, and then we'll have a 2-week showdown starting on May 20th. I mean, this is going to be like nothing you've ever seen before. And then if President Trump, of course, wins, because we're going to be working as hard to make sure that he does, he's going to win a landslide. He's obviously way ahead in the polls. Then he faces whomever. We're just going to leave that question mark because all of these allegations against Biden, which are coming out now, then he could potentially end up pardoning himself and getting rid of all of the people in the DOJ and FBI. I mean, the events that are unfolding before our eyes are like nothing we have ever seen before.
You know what the funniest thing that happened all week, probably all month though, is the Republicans held a hearing on Democrat censorship, and they invited a Democrat, and then the Democrats try to censor that Democrat immediately without them talking about in a hearing about Democrat censorship.
It's the wildest
can't get over
thing.
that.
I know. It's the wildest thing I've ever seen.
I can't. I have to say it over and over just to make it clear in my head. But they did. They called it. Okay, we're gonna have a censorship. We're gonna bring in a Democrat, and the Democrats try to censor the Democrat.
It's just incredible.
Before he could talk and shut him up on a hearing the Republicans called on Democrat censorship. Man,
it is true.
That could be the funniest story all year, you know.
It's the wildest thing ever. I mean, what they did to Kennedy just exposed themselves even further. I mean, you can't have a trial on censorship and then censor the person that you asked to speak. When it came out, it was just so wild. I mean, the whole thing.
And then the poodle, whatever her name is, Debbie Wasserman
Schultz,
whoever.
Yeah, what's her name?
Yeah, she said just last week he said anti-Semitic things. He had mocked the Asian community. All that's a lie, by the way, people. That didn't even happen, but that's how they do it.
Right.
They get up there and then try to talk to her. I get my time. I want my time. Wouldn't let him speak. So she threw out lies about that. He's just last week. He was all disgusting anti-Semitic comments, which is a total lie. But she just said it, and then when he tries to defend himself, I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. I mean, and everybody's going, well, she's mad. You know, the Democrats are going, well, she's mad because he said that. No, he didn't say anything like that. That's all a lie.
Well, one of the funniest things is when you start seeing that the Democrats are playing both sides of their own legal, right? I mean, they're basically turning Joe Biden in, and because they're talking about what he's done in the past. I have been laughing so hard at the whole thing. Like I said, I referred to it as whores in church yesterday, and I'm going to stick to that because they were busted flat, and they were all so embarrassed and just kind of looking around like, okay, now how do we defend something like that? You've got accusations after accusations coming out, and it doesn't matter what they do at this point. We know that they are crooked as the day is long. We know what they did for the 4 years of President Trump's presidency and how they attacked him, how they have stolen elections to make sure that they stay in power because they know that this president is all about making America great again. That's what this is. And we, the people, voted for him, and they know that we're going to vote for him on even a larger scale this time around.
I will be.
Oh, definitely. Oh, most definitely. There's no question about it. But you know, it's funny. We always laugh about some of these seedy characters. One also has emerged. You have Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, who has raised his ugly head again. Oh, yeah, he has. Former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, he settles his lawsuit against the Trump organization. Interesting. So, end of that. This is after he went to jail for lying.
Years.
Yes, guilty for
They,
campaign finance charges and lying to Congress.
yeah, yeah, and it was deeper than that too. But he was given. They let him out of jail. We'll let you out of jail, and we'll let you have home arrests or whatever. You're out. All you got to do is go up on Capitol Hill and just start talking about Trump, and you're out.
Well,
And that's what happened. That's
that's
how he got out.
exactly what they're doing with these other people. I mean, all of these people in Michigan that they've indicted, that's the deal. That's exactly what they're doing. I mean, that's how they plan on, getting Trump, is by getting people to turn on him and making January 6th all about him, even though he was the first person to say, go home in peace. I cannot play this video enough.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
Yeah, see, they don't like that video surfaced. They don't like that that's what he was claiming and saying on his Twitter page before they knocked him off of social media completely, because that was the message, and that was the message that resonated. And that is something they cannot ignore as much as they want to. So anyway, real quick, we have got a sponsor break because, like I said, when you've got Mama Bear coming on here, the queen, then let me tell you something. You got sponsors knocking at your door. So today's sponsor is also Gold Co. You can go right now to litterboxgold.com to learn how to get started today. That is, again, litterboxgold.com. That's your favorite website besides I Love Catturd.
I should have thought of that.
I know. I really thought you had something to do with it. So up until now, the digital dollar, or the CBDC, has been nothing but a headline. But right now, things are developing at a rapid pace. It started with a sweeping executive order from the Biden administration, and now central banks are even hiring for their development. Here's the thing. A digital dollar can be used to track your purchases, control what you buy, and even seize or freeze your assets. That's why it's critical for you to protect your money with precious metals like gold and silver. We have partnered with the top-rated precious metals company, Gold Co., because they are a great company with an amazing reputation. Right now, they're giving you up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last. Also, all qualified callers this week will receive a free Ronald Reagan silver coin. Don't wait until all of your money is under Biden's control. You need to go to litterboxgold.com to learn how you can get started today. It's very easy to sign up, just so everyone knows. It's a very painless process. It's only a few minutes, but definitely check it out. Make sure that you're in the know. litterboxgold.com. That's litterboxgold.com. So back on, because you know what? Here's the thing. One of the big things that's happening right now is the digital footprint. And it looks like we're closer to that than we have ever been before. You've got WorldCoin, CEO, global digital currency, and it is tied to a global digital ID, and it will soon be required whether you like it or not. This is
Yeah.
what we're up against.
We're about one step from putting a barcode on your forehead, tattoo, and use a walk around.
Well, it's no joke because they want to know who you're talking to. If you learned anything from the Twitter files, you recognize that the government is very much wanting to be in your every single day life. They want to know who you're talking to, what you're buying, who and where you spend your money, all of those things. Look at what they did to the January Sixers. They want to know everything about you. And this is how they plan on achieving it. It's no longer being talked about in futuristic terms. It's current reality that will soon be forced on all of humanity. And people have been warning about it, but this is really where we are. You've got the CEO of WorldCoin who has warned that a global digital ID system will be ushered in for citizens around the world, whether they like it or not. WorldCoin has developed a system that it pitches as the world's largest identity and financial public network. They're already there. They're just waiting to pull the trigger. I mean, this will affect all
It's over when they do that.
Well, it's really not gonna be in our best interest. I can promise you that. It never is. But even more so now, I mean, this is a real problem that we have in this country. They want to know, and they have been spying. You know, your DMs, even on Twitter, the government was working hand in hand. They were coordinating. The FBI and social media companies worked to suppress certain stories on the Bidens and expose certain stories on President Trump. They were spying on all of us. And people that are just now coming to the party and waking up, my goodness, welcome to how it actually goes, because they want to do everything in their power to control every single thing that we do. So this has been
Everything.
Yeah. This has been a
That's-
real eye-opener
that's liberalism.
for all of us. Absolutely.
I'm
all
miserable,
of
and I'm
us.
going to make you just as miserable. That's a liberal.
You got that right. So, well, it looks like we have got somebody who is knocking on our door. It looks like we have got Kari Lake. Kari Lake, hello. Hi. How are you?
Hi. Good. It looks like I froze up.
Yeah, I think you did. But you know what? You look beautiful, so that
Are
works.
you AI? Are you AI? Or is this really Kari Lake?
Man, I'm frozen. I guess if you're not showing your face, I don't show mine, huh?
Yeah,
There
it's
we
okay.
go. That's a great picture of you, by the way.
I look like I'm ready to, eviscerate someone there.
Terminator.
There you are. How are you?
I'm doing great. The AC just went out in my office. See, that's affecting my computer, and that's why it looks slowed down like this.
Oh boy, especially in Arizona. Oh my goodness, what are your temperatures like over there?
Not comfortable. 115, something like that. Even the pool feels like a bathtub. So we're getting through it. I think my husband's trying to figure it out right now.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic, because
I'm going to sit here and try not to sweat.
Wow.
that may be hard to do, because let me tell you something. Those temperatures are something. Catturd can tell you all about that.
Oh,
He's over there in Florida, so he's having the exact same problem.
every summer we have global warming here, right in the middle of the summer. It's the craziest thing. Right in the middle of the summer,
Whenever-
global warming.
Whenever you don't like the weather, you blame it on global warming, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. And that's something, that's how they roll. So I have got to ask you, how in the world are you keeping up with the schedule? First off, I've got a lot of friends over there in Arizona, and they are talking about the fact that Kari Lake is their governor, their rightful governor. So all of them wanted me to say hello to you. How is it going over there? What are some of the responses that you're getting after that election?
I think the main response is the people asking me to stay in this fight and work to reform our elections. You know, we've just seen too many times where there's something wrong, something doesn't make sense, and people never bothered to fight it or didn't push it hard enough. And we're going to continue pushing this because we know there weren't just irregularities. There was election fraud that took place in Arizona. And if we continue to walk away from it, we'll lose our country. So the main response I get is thank you for fighting. I'm so glad that you're still in this fight. Please don't stop. We support you, and we're behind you 100%. And I get this, by the way, from obviously Republicans. I get it from independents. I get it from Democrats. I get it from people who aren't even political. And people are really concerned about elections and the way they've been. And frankly, I think that we've had major problems in our elections for a long time. And they've led us to believe that we're free people, choosing the people who are running this country and involved in our government, when in fact we've probably had fraud going on for a long time.
I don't think there's any question about it.
No doubt.
I don't think there's any question about it at all.
When
Maricopa,
it,
yeah, go ahead,
oh
Kari.
yeah, when you're a county and you're not even a state, when you're a county and it takes you a month to count the elections, I can promise you're cheating. It's just that simple. It's common sense.
Well, the longer we drag out elections from what, it says in the Arizona Constitution, it says election day. It doesn't say election month and a half. And we vote for 28 days in Arizona. And then we count for 14 days, give or take a few, until the result is what they want. And that's the longer you drag out elections, the more time there is for fraud. And I don't think that's by accident. And I don't think that's by accident that these people running our elections don't want to bring it back down closer to election day. I think there's a lot of people involved in our elections who are perfectly fine with fraud and are actually behind the fraud and benefit from this system, the status quo, which is a corrupt system, not just in the federal government, but all the way down into our states and into our counties. And Maricopa County is a mega county. Not mega, although I do think it is a mega county as well, but I'm talking mega. It's a huge county. It's 65% of the state population resides here. So all they have to do is corrupt one county, and they can take the whole state, and they can take, frankly, they can start to affect the entire country's results, as we saw in 2020, with just a few counties running fraudulent, bogus elections. It can affect the entire trajectory for our country and our people. And that's what happened in 2020. And if we don't fight it and fight in the courts like I am, it may happen again in 24. And I don't want to see that.
No one does. Oh my goodness. Maricopa County ran an election on uncertified machines. Ballots were ordered on the wrong size, and the weight of the paper was jamming up the printers. I mean, you had ballots that were transported, breaking chain of custody. Video evidence shows election workers that were tampering with machines. Thousands of Arizonas were denied their right to vote. I mean, what is it going to take?
Running out of ink. You forgot that one.
Yeah, I mean, what is it going to take?
They had toner issues where it was printed too light. We print our ballots right there on demand, ballot on demand in these printers. So the printers are incredibly important. And the fact that they wouldn't have enough toner is shocking. It's like, election day is game day. It's like the Super Bowl. And to act like you didn't know it was coming and running out of ballots, we had that happening in other counties, especially in the primary in Pinal County. They ran out of only Republican ballots, by the way, within an hour of the election beginning in primary day. And that was a county that was heavily favored to go to me. And then by the end of the day, 1 out of every 4 polling places ran out of ballots. This is unacceptable stuff. This isn't just, oops, we screwed up. This is, if you screw up in that way, maladministration in that way, you need to be punished for that. And then on, of course, November 8th, 2022, that's when all the problems happened. They rolled out broken machines. 60% of our polling places, 59%, had machines that weren't functioning properly. The wrong thickness of paper affected the printers. And we also know that on election day only, the image, rather than being a 20-inch image on a ballot, somehow a 19-inch image got printed on the ballot. Well, that jams up the machines. And it was just a complete cluster. And it was a nightmare and a train wreck. And they called it a hiccup and said everything's fine. That's not everything fine. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. We already have gotten to the bottom of it. We just need a judge to be brave and bold and do the right thing here for the people of this state.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's really something. So subsequently, the Arizona Senate, they passed the SCR 1037, which clarifies the DHS designated election infrastructure as critical infrastructure. SCR 1037 bans electronic voting machines not USA made from being used in federal elections in 2024. Can you comment on the effort to get counties to use only paper ballots for upcoming elections so that they don't have to run electronic vote fabrications for state and county elections?
Well, I'm impressed that our Senate did that, because right now, I mean, I've been saying the only way forward is through a case like mine, because even if our Senate passes laws, they're not going to get signed into law by this fraudulent governor, Hobbs. And so, they've got to find a way around it. And I believe that that resolution is legally binding. We just need courageous board of supervisors in these other counties. We have 15 counties here in Arizona. We need them to do the courageous thing, and realize what their rights are. And I think they're being intimidated and scared by fraudulent Adrian Fontes, who's the Secretary of State, who holds that office fraudulently. And they're being intimidated and frightened to do the right thing. So it's just a lot of people right now in America who have power to make a change, who are not courageous enough to do the right thing.
Boy, we're going to need some really courageous people. And you are doing such an incredible job of leading the charge. Seriously, I cannot imagine what this must be like for you. I mean, you are fighting every single day. You have not stopped. And you are the queen. I was teasing everybody. I said, we've got the queen of mama bears coming on the show. I mean, she is it. And you have started so much. Now, it's been floated that you are being considered for vice president. And I know a lot of people are looking in that direction. We're making decisions for you, Kari. Like, we absolutely love you. But can you comment a little bit on that?
I've had that question asked. I think, some of these straw polls, which, by the way, they're not the poll that matters is actually who President Trump decides. And I'll be honest, I am a complete supporter of President Trump. I've gotten to know him, but even before I got to know him, I was a big supporter. Now that I've gotten to know him better, he's truly a fighter, unlike anything we've ever seen in this country. He cares deeply about this country. He's willing to sacrifice and has sacrificed everything, just to try to get this country back on track and save it, because we really only have a year and roughly 4 months to save our country. So I am doing everything I can to make sure he gets elected, because as a mama bear, I want my kids to have a country. I want them to have access to the liberties and freedoms we had, and the American dream. And I think the only man for the job right now is President Trump. I frankly think whoever he picks for VP is going to be great. Whoever he picks, doesn't matter to me. I'm going to vote for President Trump and his vice president with everything I've got. And I'm ready and excited to cast that vote. But we got to get him to the nomination first. And we're doing whatever we can to do that, trying to get him to the nomination. So I work for him, not work for him, but I'm out there talking and speaking for him. And I did some campaigning in Iowa for President Trump recently. I do this and I want nothing in return. The only thing I want is to see him win and get into office. I know the people he surrounded himself with will do the job. I know he's going to get in there and root out this corruption. I'm actually contemplating and considering a run for the U.S. Senate. Mm-hmm. As I say that, I want people to know I'm never giving up on election reform, and my case will move forward. I call it my case, but it's really our case. Somebody said to me, and I thought it was a great analogy, they said, Arizona and your case may be the first domino to fall. And I thought, what a great analogy. You know how dominoes work. One of them tips over and then the rest of them go. And there's corruption in, frankly, all 50 states. So if we can make the first domino fall, that would be fantastic. Our case is incredibly strong. It's backed up with solid evidence provided to us by Maricopa County. Most of the time we had to sue them to get that evidence. And we just need a judge to take a look at it. But quitting or pulling this case is not an option, because what I think is going to happen is that as the coming months unfold, we're starting to see more information every day. The corruption is just starting to pile up to levels where we just can barely handle it. And we're learning more about the 2020 election, the corruption there. And as all of this corruption just piles up, I believe the pressure from that eventually will weigh on the back of a judge somewhere. And I believe it may be a judge in Arizona. And at that time, when that judge finally says, I have to do something to save the elections so that we have fair elections. I want my case to be the case sitting in front of that judge's eyes, and that's why we keep it in there. But we're also going to do things like file legal work, legal papers to prevent them from running a fraudulent election in 24. So we're very busy doing what we can here in Arizona. I'm considering a run for Senate. I'll make a decision in the next couple months, I think, and we'll decide what our next step is. I know whoever President Trump picks, it will be a great partner for him to make sure that we move our country in the right direction.
You are just doing incredible. And I'm telling you something, people are using what you are doing as a model for the rest of the country. You know, I'm here in California. I have got so many friends over there in your state. And so you were, honestly, when you were running for governor, I had more people that moved there saying, okay, our state is going to be great again as a result. And so I talk to them on a regular basis. And the thing about it is, namely, one of them is saying Megavolts. And Megavolts has been a fan of yours, huge person in Arizona, Megavolt 001. He had a big question. And it's true. Do you think that this is going to play out and end up at the Supreme Court of the United States, this whole case? The one that was just decided on Friday, where your legal team filed an appeal to the Arizona Supreme Court, alleging that 8,000 ballots were misconfigured and mostly not counted. Is that where this ultimately ends up?
We hope so. We're going to push it. We're going to keep going. And you know, my dad, who was a football coach and a history and government teacher, always said, and there was a reason he was a winning football coach. He said the only way you definitely lose is when you quit. So we're not going to quit this. But you know, the other thing that we learned recently is that the software that they use in this election, according to the system log files, which is basically every keystroke made in the elections in Maricopa County, shows that the software used in Maricopa County was not even approved software. They didn't use the software that was certified and approved. It was some other software. So, I mean, this election in so many dozens and dozens and dozens of ways is just irretrievably broken and gone and not reliable. We can't count on the results of it. So we would like to push it to the U.S. Supreme Court. I think we would get a more unbiased jury, the justices of the Supreme Court, than we will here in Arizona. I worry about the corruption in Arizona being from top to bottom, from left to right, and just all encompassing in Arizona. And so I really do worry about that. And we're going to continue to push it. If we can get it to the U.S. Supreme Court, that would be awesome. The point, though, is we got to move this quickly. And we're trying to do that right now. I think that they're trying to drag their feet in any way they can, from dragging their feet when we were asking for, evidence that public records request. They were dragging their feet with that, forcing us to sue them to get that information, dragging their feet, moving it slowly through the system. And I think that might be part of their plan, actually, just drag this out so that either the public grows weary or the election creeps up on us. And that's why we're pushing.
Well, it's really
Hey, shifting gears for a minute. What do you think about this IRS whistleblower week this week? That's crazy stuff, isn't it?
With the Bidens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nothing surprises me anymore, Kat. Nothing. Okay. I mean, the level of corruption is so outrageous. It's fantastical. You almost can't believe it. And the fact that nothing happens to these people. If
Nothing.
you're in the club, which is the swamp, nothing happens to them. They can get away with complete lawlessness. They don't have to follow the laws. They can get away with criminality, corruption, and then the people who are doing everything right are the ones they're going after. I think of President Trump. He's done nothing. There's no evidence against him, and they continue to attack and
Nothing.
throw indictments at him. And then they're doing the same to me. I'm being sued by a government official, a politician, for defamation because I have the courage and spine to call out the corruption in our elections. You know, have you noticed you can't talk about elections? That's taboo now.
right.
You know, you can talk about sex with children. You know, you can go into a school and talk about the most inappropriate things possible, have the most inappropriate, actually horrible books in front of our young children, but you can't talk about corruption in the government. You can't talk about corruption in our elections. That tells you that if that's taboo, that's what they don't want us to know about. And I think we have to talk about it more and be louder as we spread the word about what's happening. And what I tell people, they go, what can I do? I say, you can support our case. You can share information that's out there. When you see our filings for court, share it. Let's get this out. Wake people up as to what's really happening in our elections. Or as you're following other cases around the country, share that. We can go around the fake news. We don't need them. They're putting out lies anyway. We can go around them.
Tucker said something that was just as true as you can get the other day. He said, nobody is punished for lying in this country, but if you take.
Uh-oh, I think we may have lost Cat. He's been having some trouble with his signal. I don't know what's going on today. It's happening with both of you. My signal is strong in LA. I don't know, but I don't know what's happening. I've had to bring him back in a couple of times already. So I don't know if it's just contagious.
Wow, this is. I mean, my camera's freezing up.
I know.
I should say maybe it's overheating because the air conditioning isn't working. But I'm amazed right now. I'm sitting here trying to keep calm and I'm not sweating. So I don't know if I've just
look wonderful.
So acclimated to Arizona that I can just, somehow survive the heat in this office.
It's just the craziest thing I have ever seen because, I'm bringing him in again. It's like a constant thing. I keep watching him fall and then come back and then come back. Kat, are you there?
I don't know what's going on.
I don't either.
It's suspicious, though. I've never got knocked off here in years, and now I've got knocked off 3 times. It's just as soon as you go.
Well,
I'll tell you, they must have heard us talking about election fraud, and when they hear that, they freak out.
Shut Catturd up! Shut Catturd up immediately! Press the button.
You remember the case Missouri versus Biden, where the judge came through and said, "Wait a minute, this is so egregious. This censorship by the government of the people is so shockingly horrifying that we're going to actually shut it down and tell them to cease and desist basically from that censorship." And, one of those aspects that they were censoring people was talking about the 2020 election, talking about elections. And one of the things that kind of sent a chill down my spine was they referred to what I call the gaslighting as cognitive infrastructure. That's how they are trying to control what goes into our minds. The government looks at that as cognitive infrastructure. Just wrap your mind around that they're actually thinking. There's many tentacles of their control over us, but that one of them is trying to control what we think through propaganda, through gaslighting, through lies, misinformation, disinformation, all of those various terms we've heard. But that's a really big part of how the government is working to control the people.
Well, just like in California, they're introducing re-education camps for children. If you bully somebody, and the parents are on board with this whole thing. They think
bullying
it's a great idea.
is misgendering them.
Yes.
Or not doing the proper pronouns.
Exactly.
It's not actually bullying.
So they're going to try to brainwash them. Aren't they already doing enough brainwashing of our kids as it is? It's so horrible what our kids are going through. And in some ways I look at this younger generation and I don't fault them. I really don't. I think of people even, in their 30s who have just gotten so, they've become anti-American. They believe everything the government tells them. And I think, wow, I can't even hold disdain in my heart for them because they've come up through a system where K through 12, they've been lied to or manipulated or indoctrinated. And then if they've gone on to college, they've continued that indoctrination. And then the culture that they're, living in and the things they're watching perpetuated as well. So when you've had that kind of cognitive infrastructure, pushed at you, eventually you're going to succumb to it. And many have. So it's hard for me to hold any hate in my heart for them. I really feel for them because they came up with such indoctrination.
It is true. It's frightening to see what they're actually learning and what's on the shelves in their library. And social media and everything else, put that all aside. I mean, this is truly brainwashing. They are spending more time with their teachers and their coaches than they are at home. And if you have a coach or a teacher that is part of this whole mess, then you've got a problem. You're going to have a child you don't even recognize. Now
Well,
we,
and
yeah,
this is one of the reasons I like President Trump's Agenda 47. All of these really big issues he has a policy for. And this isn't just, I'm going to fix it. It's a serious policy, rooting out some of the Marxism, all of the Marxism from our schools. We spend more money on our government run schools than any other country. We spend a lot of money on our schools, but the education quality is horrible because we're teaching this, DEI, we're teaching CRT. We're not teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, life skills, trade skills, actual skills that will get our kids ready for the real world as soon as they graduate from high school. There's not a reason we can't have our kids who don't want to go off to college prepared for the jobs that are out there upon exiting high school. But if we're going to continue to teach this Marxism and continue to teach this diversity, inclusivity, equity, CRT garbage, then we're not preparing our kids. And so he's got a plan for that. I love that he wants to have principals voted in and voted out by the parents. We have to stop these teachers' unions. Frankly, they don't care about the teachers. They're using teachers as political pawns. And they certainly don't care about the families or the children. And you think about the teachers' union, that's the reason our kids were masked up 2 years, 2.5 years. It was a push by the teachers union pressuring the CDC to write policy to allow them to continue to mask our beautiful, precious children's faces. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that's unforgivable. That's unforgivable what they did to our kids, and the lockdowns that they enforced on our kids, and the COVID restrictions that took so much from our children, from their learning, from their social life, from their ability to excel, whether it be academically or in sports, and have access to scholarships. It's just unforgivable what they did. And there needs to be justice for that. And I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about justice except for President Trump. This is not one of those things where you go, well, okay, we forgive you. Not when it comes to what they're doing to our kids. We need to see justice there.
you are
Yeah,
absolutely
they
right.
they don't have a chance. I mean, they teach them the air you breathe is poison. You're all going to die in 12 years. The earth's going to explode and heat, and you're all going to burn alive. And then they're showing them pornographic material at 7 years old, and then they're putting them on groups with CRT, saying these are privileged and these are not. I mean, it's a wonder these kids make it to 9 years old.
Well, you wonder why there's so many, emotional issues. There's absolute psychological abuse going on. All those things you mentioned is psychological abuse. And when our precious babies go into school and an adult in that school talks them into or manipulates them into thinking that they can change their gender and do things behind their parents' backs that are so damaging and dangerous, that in many cases result in those young people deciding that they want to have a catastrophic surgeries that are catastrophic to their health for the rest of their lives. It's really a grave criminal act, in my opinion. And I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of moms and dads out there are absolutely horrified by this. It's barbaric. We will look back at this point in history and we will be ashamed. We'll be ashamed. And if we don't do something about it, we'll even be more horrified as we look back and say, why didn't we do more?
Boy, it is
Yeah, well, that was
awful.
the one good thing about COVID, I believe, is when they started learning from home and the parents were over their shoulder saying, "Oh, let's look at their math class and see if they're learning two plus."
I think the robot,
Uh-oh.
it keeps
We've got the
happening.
gremlins in here today.
We really do. Well, we always wonder, who is controlling this from, whatever satellite or whatever, because whenever we have a big guest on, we have a problem. It's the wildest
Wow.
thing, but especially you, Carrie Lake. I'm sure once it made the headlines that you were headed over here, boom, with Catturd and me, then it was over in a
You're like,
second.
shut it down.
Exactly.
Shut it down.
We
Oh
have a
my gosh.
mutual friend, Leventhal Spade, over there on Twitter, and he wants you to talk a little bit about Moms for Carrie and ask you a little bit about your coalitions and also about your book. So if you don't mind, just
Oh,
giving us
thank
a little
you.
insight into that, that would be great.
Well, we had the most expansive coalition movement, and that was our movement. Our movement was made up of Arizonans who were looking at the state going, how did it get this way? How did we turn into a suburb of California? Why haven't we been putting Arizona first? Why do we have a wide open border? How come we can't go out and enjoy our parks with our kids and ride bikes at night without worrying about the crime and watching as our streets become overrun with tents and homeless people who are seriously mentally ill or strung out on drugs and just look the other way? We can't keep doing that. And so we were made up of a coalition of concerned Arizonans from all walks of life. What I was most proud of were those moms for Kari, because just like me, they are busy people because we're raising our kids, and they said, I don't care what it takes. If I have 2 hours in the morning, if I have a couple hours after the kids go to bed, I'm going to get involved in this movement. They called it Carizona, which I was really, I thought it was such a sweet name,
It's perfect.
but it was really about Arizona and Arizonans and taking our state back and making it a strong sovereign state. And they recognized in me someone who is one of them, who cares about this state, who is sacrificing in order to run and represent we the people. Probably one of the first politicians in a long time statewide who jumped in to represent we the people. And unfortunately, the powers that be, the swamp, which is still alive here in Arizona, said, no, we can't let her win because we can't have the criminality at the border shut down. We can't stop the cartels. They want to keep it going. They want to keep that wide open border. They want the smuggling of human beings. They want the sex trafficking of women and children. They want the trafficking of dangerous, deadly, poisonous drugs. And they want the destabilization of America. I'm not okay with it coming through Arizona, and neither are the good people of this state. So I'm really proud of our Moms for Kari movement. It truly was comprised of moms, many with little ones, who gave up so much, sacrificed a lot in our movement. And many of them were the ones who said, please fight this. Don't let them steal this election. Don't just walk away from this rigged, stolen election. And that's one of the reasons I'm still in the fight. And you had a second part of the question, and I forgot what it was. Oh, my
And
book.
It is your book.
Hello.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my
Hello.
gosh. I love this.
forgot.
Tell us about it.
I'm really proud of this. It was shortly after they stole our victory in November that I had a couple of publishers and folks reach out to me and say, would you please write a book? You have a great story to tell, and we'd like you to tell your story. And to be honest, I was a little bit in a dark place because I was upset and angry, hurt. I was hurt that other fellow citizens of ours could run an election that way and be willing to cheat and do this to the people. And so when I was asked to write a book, I thought, I don't know, I'm in a really dark place. I don't think you want me to write a book from this perspective. It might end up being like a Stephen King horror book. And I don't know if that's what they were looking for. But then I decided, this is a story that needs to be told. And I decided to start writing it. And it was very cathartic to write this book. It tells the story of how I started up kind of a little bit of a memoir growing up in rural Iowa, the youngest of nine. I came from very, very, very humble beginnings and worked for every single thing that I have and had. As we were, a big family without much money, we had to work for everything. And how I ended up in a dream career, and then how I ended up walking away from that career kind of at the height of my career and entering the crazy world of politics at such a consequential time, leading a movement of the people here in Arizona that has spread across the country. It talks a little bit about political history because a lot of political history runs through Arizona. There's some inside dirt on some of the swampy characters that we all know. And there's also, it's a true crime story as well when you think about what happened on November 8th. I break down that day of exactly what happened, starting from the phone call I got from President Trump at the beginning of the day to the end of the day being where it became very clear exactly what they had planned and how they had committed the crime, and then the following days and how we're fighting it. So it's uplifting, believe it or not, even though with all of that, it's uplifting, and it shows how this America First movement is truly the only way to save our country, and how we make sure we continue moving this forward, even without some of the political players we have today, because we want America First policies that will save our country to last beyond our generation. We want them to last beyond President Trump, beyond me, beyond the people who are America First, in our America First movement. We want it to go through our kids and grandkids and great grandkids and be the future of this great country.
No doubt it will be. With fighters like you, there's no question about it. I am thrilled. I am looking so forward to it because even though you say you were in a dark place, sometimes that's when we're the clearest, right? That's when you
Yeah,
really you hold on to every single one of those little details and they're fresh in your mind and you start to write it and it's preserved in history. That's who you were and are in that space.
Yes.
And it's fantastic.
It's a page turner as well. I'm a 30-year journalist, so I do enjoy writing. And President Trump wrote a beautiful foreword. You can just hear his voice in that foreword. And then from the first sentence, I guarantee you will be hooked. One of the biggest compliments I have gotten from a few people who've reached out to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I couldn't put it down. I found myself reading through the night, staying up until like 3 or 4 a.m. and then waking up the next morning and finishing the book. It's a very quick read, even though it's, I think, 280 some pages. I put about 48 pages of color photographs that go along and coincide with some of the stories. So you get an idea as you're reading and you look through the photos of what I was talking about. And it's just I'm really, really proud of it. Most people who are politicians, and I know people have called me that, but I hate to think of myself as a politician. When they write a book, it's written by a consultant. It's written to set them up for whatever their office they're running for. And that's not at all why I wrote the book. I wrote the book just really in a way to be a little bit cathartic and get through those dark months as I was just up to my earlobes in attorneys and pulling together a case to fight for our country's elections. And so it was a perfect time to write it right around the holidays, and had a great editor who helped cut out some of the excess that wasn't needed in there. She would say, you told that story 3 times in 3 different chapters. Do you mind if we cut out 2 of them? And I said, okay, go ahead. And it really moves. It's a great read. One man said, and I thought this was great, he said, "I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't read a book in 2 decades," he said. And he said, "Your book was so good. It was such a page turner that I'm going to start reading again." And I just thought, wow, I mean, that made me feel really good that somebody who hadn't even picked up a book for that long actually picked up a book and started reading. And I'm glad it was my book and a book that he could just flip through the pages so quickly and enjoyed.
Well, it's true because people are.
You're not saying politicians don't write their own books, are you? No way.
Well, some of them don't. Some of them don't. That's what I've heard. I've heard some of them. It's like, this doesn't even sound like a human being wrote it. Now they're saying that, what is it, Chat GPT or something is writing some of them. So
I don't think Joe Biden could write a coloring book.
Well, he definitely isn't the one that's tweeting on Twitter.
I would be afraid, to be honest, Kat, I would be afraid of the pictures that would be in that coloring book. It'd be a
scratch and sniff. Yeah, scratch and sniff.
Oh man, horrible. It would be depraved. It would be a depraved coloring book for sure.
Oh, well, this is great. So they can go to your website to get the book. And
yes, you can find it on my website, and that would be purchasing it from the publisher, which is Winning Team Publishing, or you can go to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Some bookstores have it. I've been told that a lot of them are sold out. So, grab it on Amazon, grab it on Barnes and Noble. I promise you, it is a total page turner. I just absolutely am so proud of this book, and everybody has really enjoyed reading it.
Oh my gosh. Well, and it's nice to settle down and be able to read one with all of the headlines that are constantly, you have whiplash by the time the day is done. To be able to sit down and hear your story and what happened, your words, how you rose to what and where you are today. I mean, you're on a first name basis with President Trump, and both of you have been vilified. You're villains in the eyes of the media. You're heroes to the American people. It's a tale of 2 stories, and they both are. You've had a similar experience. It's a wonderful thing to see.
You're my only VP choice, by the way, and I'm not changing my mind.
Yeah, me neither. Sorry.
Okay.
You're who I want. That's who I'm going to push. So
okay. I'm just going to keep moving forward. I have a lot on my plate right now, but we do have similarities, and I break down because I had a 30-year career in the news. So I started in news as a journalist, and I go into this in great detail in the book, actually. And many people have said, oh my gosh, I loved when you took us behind the scenes of the fake news media, and then how you dismantled it. And a lot of people said some of their favorite parts of following our campaign was watching me take on the fake news. And I think by the end of our campaign, it started off with them doing their typical, asking just the nastiest, most biased, loaded questions. But we decided early on, and I talk about this in the book, to turn the tables on them, actually record them, microphone them, and make sure that we were showing what they were up to. And then we would put that out and make that clip go viral. So by the end of the campaign, we found that these members of the fake news were changing their tone, changing the way they asked questions, not asking such loaded, biased questions, because they knew I was calling them out, and I would in a heartbeat, I would turn them into a viral video clip, and they didn't want to be embarrassed on a national stage.
You were destroying them. Don't be nice about it. It was awesome.
Well, I'll tell you a story really quick. Inside this book, I talk about when I first got in to my campaign. My original plan was, I'm not going to do any interviews with the fake news. Can you imagine? I said, no, I'm not going to talk to these people. They're so dishonest. They're so awful. I'm not going to even give them the time of day. And finally, Ross Trumbull, who is my communications director, he said to me, why don't we do one? I just agreed to do one interview. It's going to be a 5-minute interview. It's with a local guy. I think he'll be pretty fair. And it was right after I announced I was running. And he said, it'll probably just be kind of, why are you running? Just a kind of an intro story about why you're running. So I sit down to do it via Zoom. And right away, I realized, no, the tone of the questions, he's turning this into a hit piece. And I was so angry on the inside, guys. I could feel like the smoke coming out of my ears. I was just like enraged on the inside. And I'm taking it and listening to his questions. I'm answering back, going on. He's going on. One more nasty question. Finally, I called an end to it, and I said, look, I've given you more time than I promised. I can see where you're coming at. And, we ended the interview. Closed down the Zoom link, and I was really mad at myself for doing it. I was mad that I lost my cool. I said, I just really got so angry during that. And I called Ross. I said, I wish we wouldn't have done that. It's going to be disastrous. And as I'm talking to Ross, my husband is re-racking the video and looking through it. He takes his headphones off and he turns around. He says, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. You dismantled that guy. You ripped him up one side and down the other. And it was only then did I realize I have this ability to be a very controlled person on the outside, even if I have those emotions going on the inside. And that was the moment we decided, instead of not doing any interviews with the media, we're going to do every interview that comes our way. And that was kind of how my campaign really turned that direction, by having that. So I don't know if that one reporter realizes it, but his completely biased hit job is what motivated me and made me realize that I'm going to take on the fake news every chance I get. And it was pretty fun.
Oh my gosh, you did it beautifully. You still do. I cannot wait to see a Kari moment. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I look at this and I go, Kari moment. I got to see this clip. I've got to see her completely take them down. It's almost like you see this whole thing coming, what they're going to ask, where they're going to try to strike, and you just put it out there beautifully. You put it into it.
You lived in that world for 30 years. That helps. You knew exactly
it helps.
What was going
I understand where they're coming from. I know what they're up to. But also, I think it's interesting. The mainstream media is so afraid of me now. They won't do interviews with me. We tried to get an interview with The View and all of these mainstream outlets, and they won't do interviews because
I think, God, you on The View?
They're afraid.
Oh Lord, get my
and
popcorn.
They shouldn't be afraid. They should just be willing to cover the story fairly. But they know that the second they start to go down that biased track, I'm going to mention something, and I think they're nervous about that. They don't want to look the fool.
Well, they're acting like a public relations firm. And what we've learned from the relationship between the FBI and the government and Twitter, I think the exact same relationships go on with all of these different shows like The View and the mainstream media. I'm wondering when we're going to start seeing subpoenas to look at the conversations that have taken place with the Biden administration and them. I think it's just as hot. I really do. I think it's just as big. I think they've been monopolizing this entire thing to gaslight the American people.
Certainly makes you wonder if there were members of the media that were a part of this campaign to lie to the people. I remember seeing when President Trump had COVID. Remember during 2020, I believe it was 2020, and he said, "Hey, I took hydroxychloroquine," and I was watching some newscast, and they pulled away, and the news anchor recoiled and started just tearing that down, and it was obviously an agenda that was being pushed, and then you could almost see it overnight. Once we saw all of these news outlets, they were sponsored by Pfizer, sponsored by the big drug companies, big pharma, and overnight they went into starting to push the vaccine like there was no tomorrow. They were pushing it. You were watching, if you flipped around, you'd see, and even on their social media, you'd see these news people with their little Band-Aid, I got the vax, or whatever they would say, look, me, I'm getting the shot. And it was just like, it was like somebody flipped the switch and all of a sudden they were all on that page.
Nobody's doing
And
it
I
anymore, I
wonder,
noticed.
I wonder who flipped the switch and who gave them the orders, and which ones of them were willing to take those orders, and if they truly were in on it.
Well, it's the government. I mean, that's what we learned from the Twitter files. I mean, they have had a long-standing relationship with these people, and they are pushing whatever it is, whether they're covering it up for certain politicians or whether they're exposing it on others. They're looking
Right.
for a crime like a needle in a haystack with President Trump, and you've got these bureaucrats that have been in office and up there in Washington, D.C. is what I call it, and they slow down these investigations or they speed them up. But now all of a sudden, you've got fingers pointing at them. Who's going to investigate the investigators? Because that's really where we ultimately are right now.
Right. It's a very deep and dirty swamp, and from the various federal agencies to the media doing their bidding. I mean, we look at the Russiagate story. If you just take that, the dirty dossier as they call it, and how that was perpetuated between the Hillary Clinton, the DNC, buying and paying for that. And then you look at John McCain as being the guy that actually, through his people, got it into the hands of the FBI and even into the media. And then you wonder which individual members of the media are part of this. We know that the corporate news is corrupt, and maybe some of the people at the top are involved, but I'm really curious which individual people you see their faces and hear their voices are in on it. Because you kind of mentioned that, and I don't think that everybody's just a fool and accidentally falling into this. I think there could be people, well-known figures, who are in on it.
Well, getting you and President Trump up there, we'll certainly be able to figure that one out, won't we?
I'm just
We're not going to
surprised.
stop.
I'm surprised more people in the media aren't coming forward and just walking away. That would tell me a lot of who's guilty and who's not. I don't know how they still sit there. And now with all of this corruption coming out, and we're seeing it, if you're following the investigations going on in the House, there's so little coming out in the mainstream media. How do these people look themselves in the mirror every day? I actually, when
They
I
have
do,
no conscience.
if
I
I'm
say
in
it
the
all the time.
airport and I look up and I see the news on, I think, how are these people doing it? How do they live with themselves,
Well,
knowing what's happening in this world?
they're taking money out of the interviews that they are granted. They're getting money in other ways. They're getting exclusivity. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The corruption is so obvious. It's not even
None of them are
funny.
true believers.
No.
They all lying, and they know they're lying, and they just don't care.
They really don't.
I think the question, though, is if they're just kind of useful idiots or if they're kind of diabolically part of it
Probably
and
both.
involved. That's the question I'm trying to figure out, ascertain. But, I do talk about quite a bit in the media and how they're working and what they do. And I think I'm able to help people figure out where to go for news and why you really need to just turn this stuff off. I used to think there was a little sliver of truth in every story, but after I saw the coverage of me and of course, with President Trump, now I realize these stories have zero truth. I've read so many stories about me where I look at it and I go, not one thing written in that story is truthful. And people just get the headline and they go, "Ooh, this is good," and they believe the headline. And we have to train ourselves to be better consumers of information and truth, because that's not truthful what's being printed. And whoever they're attacking the loudest, by the way, I think those are the people we need to support. truly.
Exactly right. Well, they can get into a good book and they can get it over here at karilake.com. And that way they've got that and they will settle in nicely to that one. Kari Lake, I cannot thank you enough for joining us
Thank
on
you so
this
much.
show. We really
I'm so
appreciate it.
honored that you had me, and I'm sorry about all of the glitches and the computer problems, but hopefully we were able to, communicate enough that people got something from this.
Absolutely. And we look forward to having you again. You are great as always. And we wish you the very best. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us here on the show with all the other
We
litter
really
mates.
appreciate it.
We
Thank
do
you so much.
indeed.
And in the course of this interview, the air conditioning is working now. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
I know it feels good.
Thank God.
We appreciate
Okay, guys, have a
you.
great day. We'll talk
Bye.
again soon. And thanks for keeping us laughing and keeping it real,
That's
Kat.
he does
No
a
no
great job
problem.
of that, doesn't he? All right.
Sure does. All
Kari
right,
Lake,
thanks,
thank
guys.
you. All right. Okay, so we've had the wildest interview. I don't know how many times you were kicked off.
I was dropped off 8 times.
Do you know how many cat turds I saw as far as in the room? Multiple ones. It was like it was stuck.
I cut my phone back off and back on and tried everything. And I've got 4 bars. Everything's good. I'm in the same place I've been for years. So I don't know what was happening.
Reports
Very fishy.
beautifully, and our signal looks great, but Rumble is having trouble, it looks like. There's all kinds of little glitches, but we were able to get it in there, and it has been recording. So if you missed it or if you had any problems on your end, you can always watch the show again, because honestly, I mean, that was really bizarre. But make sure that you support what she's doing. Kari Lake is just incredible. And getting this book, I'm really looking forward to reading it. It's going to be fantastic. But I honestly cannot explain those glitches. I have no idea. I've never seen so many cat turds in the meeting as I did today. It was like multiplied.
It's funny how it hasn't never, I mean.
Did I lose you again? Of course I lost you again. Of course, that would just make sense that Cat, of course, is gone again. Seriously, he could not keep his signal for but just a few seconds. I don't know if he'll end up calling back in or not. What's funny is that it says that he's that he's still here with me, which is bizarre, but I definitely know he's not. All right, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Here's the deal. If you're not doing anything tomorrow, I'm going to do some deep dives on A Political Rendezvous. That's my show, and I do it every single Saturday at 3:00 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:00 noon Pacific. I'd love to have you join us, where we go through all of the big stories of the week. And tomorrow we've named the show The Enemy Within, where we will go through everything that has happened this week and what has been exposed in the deep state and what they've been up to. It's a great show. We've got the gems in there. We'd love to have you join us. You can go to julesjoneslive.com, and I always put it up on my Twitter page as well, and also on Truth and Getter and Gab. I advertise it today after this show, and that's at Jules Jones Live on Twitter, so you can check it out. I hope you'll join us. We have a great chat. We have a lot of conversation, and we just go on until we don't go on any longer. So I hope to see you there. Anyway, in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you later. Bye.